Hi, so as you guys know, we're doing a new DEAR program at school. I'm the new librarian, Miss Cunningham, by the way. And we're doing a new program for Drop Everything and Read, and you guys are going to be able to pick your books this time. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to tell you a little bit about each book, and then you can have an opportunity in your second period class to come pick a book of your choice. So the first one is actually, it's called The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. And this is a book I'm actually reading right now, and I can't put it down. I'm staying up at night too late reading it. It's about a young girl who grows up in poverty. The beginning of the book begins with her seeing her mom looking through a dumpster, homeless, and she sees her mom as she's driving by. And then it then goes on to tell her story from her childhood and how poor her family was and how crazy her parents were. So I'm really enjoying it. It's called The Glass Castle. This book is called Leaving Home. It's actually an anthology, which means it's a group of shorter stories put together in one book. It's famous authors, some authors that you may have seen before: Amy Tan, Tim O'Brien, Toni Morrison, Gary Soto. So those are authors that you may already know. And it's a collection of their journeys about leaving their homes. And some of you, especially if you're seniors, getting ready to go to college, or if you've ever moved and gone to a new state or a new country or a new city, it's all about leaving your home. Stories written by authors about the process of what it's like to leave home. This is a great book called A Hope in the Unseen, and it's about a young kid who grows up going to the absolute worst school in the Bronx, completely dangerous school. There were 1,000 kids in his school. 80 of them were passing their classes out of 1,000. And he worked really, really hard and ended up going to Brown University, which is one of the top universities in the country. And it's really just about how he survived that high school experience, how hard he worked, and then what it was like when he got to college, how difficult it was for him being so different and coming from such a different background than the other students. It's just a really beautiful memoir. And of course, a memoir is sort of an autobiography, but it's just a chunk of a person's life. Okay, this one is a story that it's a New York Times bestseller. It's sold many, many, many copies. It's a beautiful story about a young girl whose mother is murdered, and of course that haunts her. She's taken care of by another woman who sort of adopts her, and that woman offends some very racist men in town, so they have to leave in the middle of the night. And they leave, and they end up living with some women who are beekeepers. And it's just a beautiful story. It's a beautiful story about women set in the South in the 60s. This story comes recommended to me. I picked it because it was recommended to me by one of our graduates who's now in college, and he said it's the best book he's ever read. So I thought, well, we should pick this book. It's about a boy who lives in America in the 50s, and his family is picked up by immigration, and they are forced to go back to Mexico, and it talks about their journey of having to go back and completely change their lives and the absolute poverty that they end up living in back in Mexico. In fact, the author calls it crushing poverty, and the hours of labor and the horrible prejudice that they experience back in Mexico. But the strong family bond that they have and how they all survive because they're such a strong family. It's a great story. And again, recommended by a East Valley student. If you are interested in you enjoy history, this book, Farewell to Manzanar, is about a family that lived through the internment camp, the Japanese internment camps during World War II. We imprisoned Japanese American citizens in internment camps during World War II, as you may know, as you may have learned. And this is about Manzanar, one of those internment camps. It's short, but it's a very strong novel. This one, Coming of Age in America, is a famous multicultural anthology. It's written about all different kinds of cultures. Short stories, again, kind of like Leaving Home. And it's written by writers from 15 different ethnic groups. And it's all about the idea of growing up and coming of age, and how that experience of becoming an adult is very different in different races and genders and ethnicities, but also very similar. And again, also Julia Alvarez, some very famous authors are included in this anthology. And this is shorter stories within a larger collection. Into the Wild, I'm not sure if you've seen the movie. The book is really wonderful. It's about a young boy who grows up in a very wealthy family who decides to give up everything. He has some inheritance money that he gives to charity. He burns all the money in his wallet, and he simply decides to just go hike. And he ends up hiking in Alaska, and he lives in an abandoned bus. And he ends up dying there of starvation and poisoning. I think, well, you'll have to read the book to find out. But it's all about his journey of going into the wild and living. Kristen Stewart from the Twilight movies is in this movie, so you may have seen it. 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. This is a book about a girl who commits suicide and leaves on the doorstep of a boy that her crush, on the doorstep of her crush, she leaves 13 letters about the 13 reasons why she committed suicide. And of course, we find out perhaps why he is on that list of her 13 reasons, and why she decided to end her life. It's a really great book. I think this is a movie too. And lastly, Big Mouth Ugly Girl by Joyce Carol Oates. This is a book sort of coming out of all the highly publicized school shootings that we've been experiencing as a nation. And what this book is about is a boy who makes a good student who makes a really passive comment about having a bomb or wanting to bomb the school, and the whole school goes crazy, and everybody wants to. They want to stick him in prison for what he said. And there's one girl who I believe they call her Ugly Girl. Her name is Ursula. They call her Ugly Girl, and she's kind of a loner. She is the only person that actually heard his original comment and knows that he's innocent. So it's really about whether she decides to come forward and save him from being in big trouble. And there you go. So enjoy. Pick a book you love. Read, and if you have any questions, come see me in the library.